This is the history of professional wrestling. Part 3, Inceptions. Prior to the Second World War, wrestling was dying. Then, a right-wing totalitarian despot named, well, you all know who I'm talking about. Incidentally, that man failed to make it in the sport of kings. As a wrestler named Adolf Ziegler. To think, had he managed to win wrestling crowds over, perhaps history would be very different. After the violent defeat of the biggest villain of all time, audiences clambered to see similar action in the squared circle. However, the business was shot to tatters. Many brave men had died fighting Adolf Ziegler, and many greedy promoters who had refused to fight due to a self-invented rich man bone disease had taken their purses to South America. In 1948, the remaining promotions decided to group together and form a loose connection, known as the NWC, which we all know as the National Wrestling Coalition, not to be confused with my favorite hip-hop group, N-words with concerns. This became known as the territory system. Each promotion was given its own land to grapple in. A man could lace up his boots in Atlanta, Idaho, and then be grappling for the title in Poughkeepsie, Vancouver, before the next beaver migration. It was a golden era for wrestling, with athletes and promoters working together in harmony, as just 3 stabbings per year was actually rather tame for the 1950s. You may have even heard of some of the superstar hot-ticket names from this era. They included Killer Kolash, the first vegan deemed fit enough to fight. Handsome Harry. His act would be something of a hate crime now, but at the time it was very progressive. And Lou Thex, perhaps the biggest name and the champion all promotions wanted. He was something of a prom queen, as he had promoters courting him around the clock. Although he didn't look like a prom queen, no, that was Handsome Harry's business. These unions coexisted in relative peace, sharing champions, wrestlers, and knowledge across North America. That was until a right-wing totalitarian despot named, well, you know who I'm talking about. But it wasn't just North America taking the wrestling world by storm. It would be a disservice to not cover the rise of professional wrestling the world over. So, let's look at what was going on in the ever-cosmopolitan United Kingdom.
Coming up next on BBC's Sports Hour, it's badger baiting with the landed gentry. But for now, back to the wrestling.
Well, that was an excellent bout we just witnessed. Sir Maddo of Jarrow defeating Hugh. 5 falls to half a sixpence. Now it's over to Mae West, standing by with everyone's favourite Yorkshireman, Dick Humber.
Dick, you're up next. Any words for your opponent?
He's a bastard. They're all bastards. Each and every one of you at home, you're bastards. You, miss, you're a bastard. That old lady in front row, she's a bastard. Just get me a bastard ring. Let's get the bastard wrestling.
Back then, it was legal to curse in broadcast media. Compare this to modern times, where I can call your dad a stupid sucking and a robot will simply remove the inappropriate words. I think you'll all agree, Dick Humber's speech would simply not carry the same weight with such censorship. The true superstars of the British scene were Large Papa and Giant Barleywater. Both athletes kept wrestling well into their 80s, and, sadly, both men died of a heart attack in the middle of the ring. During the same match. Against each other. They landed in sort of a heap on top of one. It was tragic. Wrestling remained on British screens until the mid-1980s. Until American greed reached out its grease-stained palms and changed the direction of the sport forever. Which brings us to the present day, our times, post-Pyro. The age influenced by this right-wing suit wearer. An age of business numbers, TV ratings, and celebrity personalities. What I've learned on the journey this documentary has taken me on is that we've forgotten what this sport is truly about. Bashing heads in, conning people out of coin, and moving on to the next town before anyone's the wiser. And what's next for wrestling, I hear you ask? Or at least, I hope you did, because that's what this final bit is about. Maybe robots? VR cyber fights? Perhaps you ingest a pill that makes you, the viewer, experience deep violence in the tiniest pockets of your inner cortex. Who can say? What I can say, though, with such a high degree of certainty, is that this is the end of the documentary. Goodbye.